If you're happy with your factory rear bumper but wish it brought a little bit more function to the table, these Oracle rear bumper LED reverse lights will be a great addition to your 2018 or newer JL Wrangler. I would like to mention that these will only fit the factory rear bumpers that are equipped with the stock reflectors. Now, nonetheless, these will be great for the JL owner who needs that extra lighting when backing up if your taillights on your JL just aren't cutting it anymore. These will also add a modern appearance to the back end compared to the standard reflector, which will add a little bit of style. Now, compared to the factory reflectors, these are going to feature a factory-like build, fitting incredibly well into the rear bumper. Now, as you can see here, these are going to have a clear lens on the front with the chrome inner reflectors, and with that combination with the high-intensity LEDs, these are going to emit around 1,000 lumens, being incredibly bright for a set of small reverse lights. These will also feature a wide beam pattern, so not only will they be bright, but the beam is going to spread wide enough to see everything in your path. Now, these will have a tough build made of a cast aluminum housing with a powder coat finish on the back, so you can ensure that they're going to hold up. Now, on the front of the lighting, this will have a PMMA lens, which will also be durable and able to withstand the elements while keeping a clear appearance for years to come. Now, this kit is going to be simple and straightforward, but it is going to come with everything that you need in order to install this on your JL for an easy install. Now, I would like to mention that this will require a little bit of wiring if you'd like to directly splice this into your reverse lights. However, we do have the Oracle plug and play wiring adapter harness available on our site if you want a plug and play install. Now, this kit will come in at around $150, and I think that that's a very good price for what you're getting here. Now, this will be set apart from the rest in the fact that this is going to be a reverse light compared to a different style reflector or any other kind of light, and these are going to offer a lot of that assistive visibility that you may need. Not to mention, this already has the wiring attached and is going to be the length that you need, and will also be compatible with the additional harness if you'd like to, so that's going to take all of the question out of the install. Now, speaking of that install, this is going to come in at a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about an hour to get the job done with some pretty basic hand tools. At this point, we can head over to the shop and check out a detailed breakdown of the install process and what it looks like step by step. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, a pair of pliers, a 7mm wrench, a 7, 8, 16, 19, and 21mm sockets, an extension, a T40 Torx bit, a few T-taps, and a 16mm ratcheting wrench. What's up, guys? Today we're installing a set of bumper-mounted LED reverse lights on our Wrangler, so let's get started.
So the first thing we're going to start on the end. We have these little plastic splash guards we need to take off. There's going to be 3 screws total. I'm going to do this outer one first, and you'll need an 8mm socket to get that screw out. So then you're going to have 2 on the inside right here. Same thing, 8mm socket. We'll pull those out and we can get this cover off. So next we're going to take off this bracket that was underneath of that plastic section. You're going to have 4 bolts total. You're going to have 2 going into the bumper right here, and you're going to have 2 on the other end that go into the frame. We're going to start with these 2 right here. You're going to use a 16mm socket to get those out. So we're going to go to the other side and get these bolts out of the frame section. Once you get that last bolt ready to come out, you want to put a hand on this bracket because it's ready to come off. So then we're going to hop on over to the other side and do that same exact thing. So we're going to stay on that same side. Next we have to get our tow hook off. So we have 2 bolts on the side and we have 1 bolt down here. This bottom one's going to be a 21mm. and these two side ones, we're gonna use a 19mm socket. Let's start with this bottom one first and get that out. And while we're over here, we're gonna unplug our license plate light as well. So that's gonna be this little plug right here. You can pull that off of here. And on this front side, we're gonna have this little tab that we need to press in. So you have this gray locking tab we'll need to press up. Once you get that up, I'm gonna press down on that gray tab once it's out and up. And that's gonna allow us to unplug that. So we're gonna go over to the other side. Now as you see, we don't have a tow hook here, so we don't need to take out this bottom bolt. However, we do need to take out these two side bolts, so we're gonna use that same 19mm to get those out. So then we're gonna move to the middle, right in the middle in front of the muffler right here on this frame section. You're gonna have these two bolts. We need to get those out as well. These are gonna be 19s, just like the side of those tow hooks. So we're gonna go ahead and thread these out. So now that we have all of that hardware removed, we can go ahead and get our bumper off. It's relatively light, it's just made of plastic, so you can probably do it yourself. I am gonna open the tailgate just to give me a little more room and get our spare tire away from our bumper.
So to pop out our factory reflectors, we can go inside of our bumper here. We have a 7mm screw that we need to remove. Now I'm just gonna get in there with a 7mm socket and do it by hand because there's not a lot of room to get really any tool inside of there. So now this right here is the bolt that we're gonna have to remove. You're not gonna be able to see anything once I get my hand in there. So we'll just point that out now. So we'll get our 7mm socket in there. Let's twist that out by hand. Now once we have our screw removed, we can flip our bumper over and grab a plastic pry tool to pry out our light. Now once we have our reflector removed on this side, we can do the same thing on the other side. So now to install our reverse light, we're gonna take our two connectors and slide them through this circular hole and then feed our wire through. And then we're gonna be sliding this tab into this little cutout and then pressing it down into place. So now we can flip our bumper back over and we're gonna be reinstalling our screw into that hole down there. And then we'll grab our 7mm socket, tighten it down. So now I found it easier to grab a 7mm wrench and kind of angle it down in there. And then we can just get a little bit of rotation at a time to tighten this down. Now once we have our light installed on one side, we can do that same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to reinstall our rear bumper. So we're gonna lift it up and get our mounting studs into our 2 holes, and then we can start getting our nuts back on the back side. So now we can slide our mounting studs into our 2 holes on each side. So now we can start with our outer 2 brackets. We'll thread our bolts back in. And then we'll grab a 16mm socket to tighten those down. And then we can do that same thing on the other side. So now we can reinstall our 2 nuts onto our 2 studs. So I'm going to start with the top one since it's a little bit harder to get to. I'm just going to thread that one on as far as it'll go by hand. And then we can grab a 16mm ratcheting wrench. Tighten that the rest of the way down. And then we'll do that same thing on our bottom stud. And then we can do that same thing on the other side. So now we can go back and reconnect our bumper harness. So now we can reinstall our plastic cover and reinstall our 8mm bolts into our 3 U-clips here. So we'll angle this in, and then we can start threading in our bolts. And then we'll take our 8mm socket to tighten these down. And then we can do that same thing on the other side. So now we can hop into the trunk and remove the bolt on either side that we need to pop out our tail lights so that we can wire these into our reverse lights. So now we can come in and lift up on our plastic trim panel. And then we're going to grab our T40 Torx bit to remove our bolt. And then we can do that same thing on the other side. So now we can come back to the outside and pop out our tail light. Now on the driver's side, we're going to be splicing into the white wire with the tan stripe, as well as a black ground wire. Now the way we're going to be doing that is with a T-tap. Now we already have a T-tap on our white and tan wire, but we're going to be adding one to our black. So we're going to put the black wire in between the fork and our T-tap, and then close that up. Now once we get our T-tap started, we can grab a pair of pliers to finish crimping down on that. And then we can grab our 2 connectors for our reverse light and feed them up into our tail light bucket. We're gonna be connecting our brown wire to our white and tan for a reverse. And then our black wire is gonna go to our black wire for the ground. And then we can put our headlight back into place. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. The only difference is the reverse wire is gonna be a white with a purple stripe instead of the tan stripe. So now we can reinstall our bolt for our tail light. So we'll get that a couple threads in by hand and then come back with our T40 Torx bit and tighten it down. Now you're gonna wanna make sure to go slow on that since it is a plastic bolt and you can strip it out pretty easily. And then we'll put our plastic cover back on and do the same thing on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Oracle rear bumper LED reverse lights for your 2018 and newer Jeep Wrangler JL. Thank you for watching, and for all things Wrangler, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.